This month on Connections, we begin our trip around Chicagoland just steps away from the holiday festivities along North Michigan Avenue and two nearby museums that provide the perfect respite for holiday shoppers. As we make our way by bus to the Red Line, we'll tell you how the CTA is making its main system more accessible for customers with disabilities. Next, as we board the Red Line South, you'll meet two rail employees who wouldn't switch jobs for anything after being crowned as two of the top CTA employees. The Red Line takes us to a Chicago neighborhood where holiday festivities and shopping abound. Our destination? The Loop. From the Loop, we're taking the Blue Line south and west, where CTA customers can enjoy the view, not just while riding on the train, but while walking through the CTA's newly renovated rail stations. Finally, we board a bus headed for South Michigan Avenue, where CTA customers will discover one of the avenue's best-kept secrets, the Spertus Institute. There's so much to see and do this holiday season around Chicagoland, and the CTA will get you there.
Glad you've joined us. I'm Dale Rivera. Welcome to Connections, where you can learn how to explore Chicagoland on the CTA. Maybe you're taking some time off around the holidays. If you are and you're looking for something to do, consider visiting a Chicago museum that's put the mod in modern art. The Museum of Contemporary Art is our first stop.
Stepping inside one of Chicago's most prominent museums, you should expect the unexpected. That's because the Museum of Contemporary Art, or MCA, was founded in 1967 as a Kunsthalle, meaning its exhibitions change about every 3 months.
We want to try to give as many contemporary artists as possible, an opportunity to be seen by a Chicago audience, and we want that Chicago audience to have an opportunity to see many world-renowned artists.
The world of contemporary art spans from 1945 or post-World War II to the present. While the MCA's permanent collection includes prominent works, currently inside the galleries you can also travel to a faraway land with the new exhibit, Between Past and Future, New Photography and Video from China.
Very exciting to see what these contemporary artists in China are doing. Kind of an unknown population. They've been quite prolific all along and haven't had that many opportunities to have their work seen in the West and in America particularly.
This 130-work exhibition is shared with the University of Chicago's Smart Museum. At the MCA, the artists' works contemplate China's past as well as what the future holds.
Lots of the artists are addressing that issue. How do I kind of reconcile China's rich history with its also rich future? And where do I stand in between there? How do I balance my life in terms of honoring tradition and looking forward to progress?
Across the hall, the scene changes with the work of Fiona Tan. She takes a new look at the U.S. prison system, its guards and inmates, with video portraits.
The installation in of itself is done in a circle of screens. And so if you're standing in the middle, you're essentially surrounded by prison guards and prisoners kind of looking at you. And it's an interesting experience.
Each month at the MCA, works by an emerging Chicago artist are displayed in the museum's 12 by 12 gallery. But in addition to viewing others' work, you may also find yourself creating your own masterpiece out of pink clay at the museum's bubblegum station.
You can tell what a creative kind of population comes to the museum by seeing what's kind of carved and made out of the clay in bubblegum station. It's fabulous.
Now, it isn't just the art that has visitors stopping by the MCA. The building itself is also something to marvel at. Designed by German architect Joseph Paul Kleihues, the building opened in 1996 and not only provided the MCA with large open gallery spaces, but with 2 stores and a trademark staircase that winds down to a fish pond. Just 1 block from Michigan Avenue, the best way to get to the MCA is, of course, on the CTA.
There's a Red Line stop just right by DePaul, and so I'm able to hop on there and just take the Red Line down here, and it's less than a 5-minute walk.
Here are all the routes that can take you right to the MCA. You never know what you'll find at Chicago's MCA, so begin exploring the world of contemporary art with the help of the CTA.
We're taking the number 66 Chicago Avenue bus west. When you use the CTA, you're going to continue to notice improvements to the system, things like new buses and rehabbed rail stations. With every capital investment in its fleet and facilities, the CTA is continually making more of the system accessible to customers with disabilities.
It's getting even easier for customers with disabilities to board the CTA's main system. 97% of the CTA's bus routes are now fully accessible, and that's good news for customers with disabilities like Jack Catlin.
I'm finding it much more convenient and very spontaneous. I don't have to call ahead for a ride. I just go down to the bus stop, hop on a bus, and go where I want to go.
The CTA only considers a bus route accessible when every bus serving a route is equipped with a lift or a ramp.
It gives people the freedom to decide, even if they're using a wheelchair, to just get on a bus and go somewhere. And more people are finding out that they don't have to take paratransit.
Accessibility on buses and trains is very important to one employee of the CTA, Christine Montgomery, who is legally blind.
I use it for everything, for my job, for shopping, going to visit friends, family. So I'm on the CTA every single day.
As a compliance officer for the Americans with Disabilities Act, Christine makes sure the CTA and its employees are serving the needs of the disability community. She says automated announcements and electronic signs on buses and trains have helped customers who are visually or hearing impaired.
Chicago.
Because I cannot drive, I'm dependent on the transit system. So I make sure that I live somewhere where there's public transportation, I work where there's public transportation, I go wherever I need to go, and our system allows me to go everywhere that I need to go.
Currently, 72 of the CTA's 144 rail stations are also fully accessible. Many stations were built more than 100 years ago, before the needs of people with disabilities were taken into account, but progress is being made. As stations are renovated, such as those along the blue and brown lines, they are made accessible.
The CTA has been steadily improving that until now half of our stations are accessible to people with disabilities, and there's at least a dozen more that will come online over the next few years.
All CTA stations are equipped with TTY phones and raised tactile edging along platforms. For customers in wheelchairs, the CTA provides flat, square boards called gap fillers, so wheels won't get caught in the space between the platform and the train. In addition, all CTA trains have a minimum of 2 accessible cars per train, recognizable by the accessible symbol on the side of the train car, and automated announcements inform customers of upcoming stops. The CTA is moving in the right direction, making great strides in increasing the accessibility of its bus and rail system. And CTA customers with disabilities are noticing.
The CTA is definitely going in the right direction. There are more and more stations becoming accessible, more and more buses becoming accessible. And the CTA is doing the right things, and it's a whole lot easier than it used to be.
When you step off the number 66 Chicago Avenue bus at Michigan Avenue, you're in for a treat. Just steps away, you'll find a place where you can escape the hustle and bustle of the holidays and see the CTA in a whole new light. A new exhibit at Chicago's City Gallery captures, in photographs, a CTA on the move.
This month, you can gain a unique perspective on the CTA by stepping inside the City Gallery at Chicago's historic water tower. In an exhibition titled In the Loop, large photographs provide unexpected views of Chicago's urban landscape, including CTA tracks and stations. Artist Akra Shep hopes his work encourages people to take a closer look at their everyday surroundings.
When we're taking a train, we're going from one place to another, and oftentimes we're focused either on where we've just come from or where we're going to be soon, and where they are can be truly spectacular.
While riding a train, a crowd was inspired by both the urban side of the city and the industrial side of the CTA, and how the two come together in the loop.
Where you're looking straight down at just all this incredible stuff happening, and it's happening with this beautiful light, and I just could not take a photograph of it.
Chicago's City Gallery is dedicated to photography about the city or work by local photographers. While this exhibition includes only 8 images, they are composites, so there are 31 photographs in all.
A lot of us don't pay attention to the everyday spaces of our lives. And when you see them translated into very beautiful photography, it makes you stop and think about it again and sort of see the beauty in the ordinary.
The City Gallery is located just off Michigan Avenue. Like all the exhibits here, In the Loop is free. Of course, the CTA can take you there. Here's how. So stop by City Gallery and enjoy the photography of a cross Shep. And who knows, you too might even find a little inspiration in your next journey on the CTA.
When you're on a train or even on a bus, you don't have to worry about looking to see who's in front of you or who's behind you. You can really look, and it kind of frees your mind up, frees your eye up.
If you go to the movies or watch television, every once in a while you may see images of our big city splashed across the big and small screens. Hollywood loves Chicago. Want to know one of the biggest reasons why? The CTA.
Movies, television, commercials, and ads. It's all part of our everyday lives. And when our hometown is put in the spotlight, it gives us a thrill.
I think it's always a thrill. When you go to a movie and you're in the dark and you look at the big screen, you get a certain sense of pride, like, hey, that's Chicago, and that is a lot of fun. And that is the fun of film production.
As the head of the Chicago Film Office, Rich Moskal and his staff work hand in hand with the State of Illinois Film Office to lure production companies to Chicago. Having movies, television, and commercials made here means revenue for businesses and jobs for residents. And while Chicago has many strong selling points, one stands out: the CTA.
You know, hands down, when you consider the entire network of the CTA properties, it is the most requested location by filmmakers in Chicago.
Since 1970, the CTA has been featured in more than 360 movies, television programs, documentaries, commercials, and print ads. 52 of those in 2003 alone.
CTA is as recognizable to the city as deep dish pizza, the Chicago Cubs, the Chicago White Sox. It's a great experience for the city itself.
Some of the most unforgettable scenes in modern cinema took place on the CTA.
I think the one scene that everybody who's seen the Blues Brothers remembers is, of course, the apartment where the L was running right next to it, rattling the entire room every time it goes by. That's a great scene.
A lot of thought goes into making sure production companies get the shots they need, but it's done with an eye on keeping service flowing and CTA customers happy.
We tend to do it during what we call non-peak hours, when our customers will be the least impacted by the production itself, but we have a large number of people both in the communications department and in our operations who work closely with the production companies. They understand our needs, and I think we've done a pretty good job of understanding theirs.
Movies, television, and commercials forge long-lasting impressions, attracting tourists from around the world. And the CTA is proud to be in on the action.
They're just going to elevate the city's reputation around the world, and that's something that films do very well for us. It's all the more reasons why we try to court them to come here and do their business.
Imagine being in a professional competition. You're assigned a teammate and must display professionalism, teamwork, and smarts, all under the watchful eyes of judges. Well, it happened for 2 CTA employees who not only met the challenge, but together won this year's CTA Rodeo competition. They're just 2 CTA employees working hard every day to keep your travel plans on track.
As a CTA customer, you might not think about how trains travel from point A to point B unless you're on one. But if you're a CTA switchman, it's a different story. Meet Susan Ware and Brian Bailey. As switchmen, it's their job to move train cars that are out of service into the rail yards, put train cars into service, and adjust the length of the train by adding and subtracting cars. Both Susan and Brian excel at their jobs, so much so that together they won the switchman competition at the 2004 CTA Rodeo. During the rodeo, Susan focused on doing the same job she does at the CTA's Rosemont shop each day.
I love switching, and I don't know of anything else that I'd rather be doing than switching. I have a lot of fun, and the people that I work with, I love working with them as well.
This was the second year that Brian represented the CTA's Skokie shop in the competition.
Most of them know I'm a hard worker, so I help others out, do what I have to do.
Brian and Susan were teamed up by chance. As a route champion, Susan drew Brian's name randomly from a hat, and it turned out to be a perfect match.
Overall, he's more laid back, and so he was helping me to relax and have fun, and that's the reason that I was in the rodeo, to have fun, and I did.
Both Brian and Susan were surprised when they won first prize.
I just did my best, and I guess it paid off.
That was not my original intent, to go to win. I just wanted to be involved, so I was really excited. I was very happy.
So remember, when you're riding the rails, there are people like Susan and Brian who are part of a big team that work hard every day to get you where you need to go safely and on time.
We always are proud of our employees here on the Blue Line that does well for the route and as well as the CTA. That's what we look for in our employees, because we have a lot of good employees out here.
During the holidays, there's so much to see and do in Chicago. And one of the best places to take in all that the holidays have to offer is right here. Our destination, Chicago's Loop.
There is one neighborhood in Chicago that everyone can call their own, and it's one of the best places to visit during the holidays, Chicago's Loop. Keeping us in the loop is our Loop guru, Dennis Mahoney of CenterStageChicago.com, a website featuring virtually everything the Loop has to offer. We gave Dennis the impossible task of narrowing it down.
So Dennis, what makes the Loop such a great destination?
Well, I think you're going to find a lot to do in the Loop. Not only is it a financial center of Chicago, but it's kind of a culture center as well. Just with shopping, the theaters, restaurants, and just walking the streets and seeing the beautiful architecture.
When you visit the Loop in December, get a good night's rest, because in addition to all of that, you'll also want to take in the sights and sounds that the holidays bring.
Well, there is a holiday parade every year. See all the decorations that they turn it out every year. Who doesn't remember all the Fields display windows along State Street?
Fields windows are a big draw every year for people from all over, as is the one-of-a-kind holiday celebration in Daley Plaza.
Daley Plaza with Christkindl Market, the holiday tree, and also the Santa House is actually a great opportunity for Chicagoans to celebrate the holidays.
Families can take their kids to visit Santa, warm up with a hot mug of apple cider, fill up on German pancakes, and complete their holiday shopping with some authentic German goods.
Besides the Christkindl Market, we also have the holiday tree, which is 85 feet tall, and it's composed of over 100 trees shipped from Wisconsin.
While looking up at Chicago's holiday tree, you can't help but notice the architecture that our city is famous for. Significant buildings that bring out the true character of the Loop, representing both the past and the future.
Well, we have one of our first skyscrapers ever in Chicago in the Monadnock building on Jackson Boulevard. The building was built in two parts. The north side was built what they call with load-bearing walls, which has 6 feet thick walls that supports the rest of the building as it tapers as it goes up. The south end of it is of a steel frame structure, which was the future of skyscraper building at that point. And from that point on, almost every other skyscraper went up using a steel frame construction.
And be sure to check out the Rookery building with its breathtaking light-filled atrium designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. Thousands of people come into the Loop each day to visit or work in some of the city's most unique buildings, from financial institutions like the Board of Trade to government institutions like City Hall. City Hall tours take you behind the scenes of city government, offering a unique perspective on Chicago's history and politics. And it's free to the public.
We tour the city council first, then we go to the mayor's fifth floor, the mayor's outer office, and then we show the visitors the pictures of the 44 mayors of Chicago.
The Loop has long been considered Chicago's central business and financial district. And over a century ago, rail transportation was an important part of its growth, in part due to an idea to link together all the existing rail lines that came into the Loop.
In 1897, an enterprising entrepreneur built what's called the Union Loop to connect all the diverse lines coming from different parts of the city. The Loop now allows easy transfers between different lines, just like the intent was in 1897.
From historic Quincy Station, it's just a short walk to the oldest family-owned and run restaurant in the city, the Berghoff. Around the same time the Loop elevated line was built, one entrepreneur was making a name for himself in Chicago. Herman Joseph Berghoff had big hopes for his Berghoff beer.
He came here and asked for permission to sell beer from the city fathers, and they said, you know, we've got enough local breweries, we really don't need another one. No. He goes, well, how about if I sell my beer with a sandwich?
The combination worked, and eventually one sandwich grew into a full-service restaurant, and the food became just as popular as the beer.
A lot of people come downtown during the holidays, and it's a walk down memory lane, and we're part of that memory lane. We're lucky.
You can't help but make memories when you visit the Loop in December. So remember, when the tree lights up, the winter holiday fun begins in the Loop. And there are plenty of ways to get here on the CTA. For more information, just visit the CTA's website at www.transitchicago.com.
There's always a new show to see, always a new restaurant opening. There's always pretty something going on. It's just the general feeling of merriment almost fills the air.
Like the red line, the blue line runs right under the Loop. And if you head south, you can connect to one of its 3 branches, the 54th Cermak. Travel along this route, and you can take in the sights of some great Chicago neighborhoods, and now some great new art. Works you can't help but notice every time you step on board.
With the CTA project to renew the Blue, 8 stations along the Cermak branch of the Blue Line have been reconstructed, providing state-of-the-art facilities for customers and a little something extra. All of the stations also have a new piece of public art for customers to enjoy. The Blue Line Art Project began in 2001 with submissions from more than 250 artists from across the country and as far away as Italy. Together with the City of Chicago's Department of Cultural Affairs, the CTA selected 9 artists to create artwork that represents the communities along the Blue Line.
We have a wonderful history here along the Blue Line, and it's important to recognize that history and to incorporate it into the art and also look forward.
One of the artists involved in the project is Pilsen resident Hector Duarte. After months in the making, you'll be able to admire his glass mosaic titled Landscape in Transit at Western Station.
We don't need to go to the museum. The art is in the public space. It's free, it's close to your home.
One of the goals with the Blue Line Art Project is to provide insight into the unique communities along the line. For example, this work by John Himmelfarb at Kedzie Station incorporates symbols you see around the community.
Within that large piece are small icons of the neighborhood, places of interest like the arch over 26th Street, and there are symbols of the CTA, symbols of churches in the neighborhood. So it really ties not just to the community, but it ties to the CTA and brings it all together into one whole piece, and we just love it.
Down the line at Costner Station, a collage depicting African-American leaders can be seen at the station's entrance. And at Damon, familiar faces greet customers as they enter the station.
The lady in the corner, she owns the Parkview restaurant down the street. The man right here, he's the paper boy on Cermak. The little girl's a girl in the neighborhood, and the man's a man in the neighborhood that's been his neighbor for years.
So on your next journey along the Cermak branch of the Blue Line, remember to take a moment to take in the artwork along the way.
It really lights up the station. It's very nice. It gives it a different look.
We started this episode along North Michigan Avenue. Now the number 126 Jackson bus will take us to the south end, where anyone interested in learning more about Jewish culture, faith, and history is invited to visit the Spertus Museum, our last stop.
The holiday season is here, and celebrations are well underway at Chicago's Spertus Institute of Jewish Studies. The Spertus Institute is a graduate college, museum, and library all under one roof. The goal of the Institute is to give everyone an understanding of Jewish heritage and culture.
We hope that people who do not know Jews or do not know much about Judaism will be introduced to basic concepts of what Jewish life and culture, Jewish history is all about.
A great way to learn is to visit the Spertus Institute's galleries, which currently display an exhibition on eternal light.
The eternal light is the object that hangs in front of the ark in a synagogue. And so this year we had artists from 10 different countries, and they have all rendered their own ideas of what an eternal light should be.
You can also get a better understanding of the Spertus Institute namesake, 103-year-old Herman Spertus, through a special exhibition of his extensive art collection.
He helped co-curate the exhibition by choosing the works that he remembered were his favorite, and then we wrote up the labels from the interviews with Herman.
And if you're looking for that perfect holiday gift, check out the gift shop on the first floor. So whether you come to shop, explore, or study, make the Spertus Institute a stop when traveling around the Chicago area on the CTA.
We'll give you the grand tour of this exciting museum next month for the start of another journey around Chicago on the CTA. I'm Dale Rivera. See you next month on Connections.
For more information about the CTA or to use the RTA's trip planner, visit our website at www.transitchicago.com. Or for customer service matters, call 1-888-YOUR-CTA. For travel information, call the RTA at 836-7000 from anywhere in the Chicago area.